Okay, so in chapter 27, it says that uh, the chief priests and the elders took Peter and took him to Pontius Pilate. Okay, because of Roman rule, the Romans had a law that you couldn't just kill somebody without being condemned by the governor. Okay, so the Jews didn't have power to kill Jesus themselves. They had to get it authorized by the governor. Okay, and so they took him away to Pontius Pilate. Oh, and then we have the part about when Judas tries to give the money back, and he leaves the money behind, and they buy the potter's field to bury strangers in. I don't really want to get into too much of this because I want to get down into the meat of this rather. I mean, a lot of this you can just read it yourself and come up with it. But anyway, the fulfilling of prophecy here with Jesus is the lamb that's being taken, and in the sacrificial tradition there was a part of the ritual where they would take a goat and then they would release the goat into the wilderness, and it's called the scapegoat. Okay, so then we come to about Barabbas. Pilate knows that Jesus is popular with the people, but not with the rulers of the people. So he's thinking that if he goes to the people and says, who should I release to you? Jesus or Barabbas? And he's thinking that if there's enough of Jesus' followers in the crowd, they'll say Jesus, and then he'll release him. Unfortunately, the rulers had gathered together a throng of people that were favorable to them and not to Jesus. And so when he gave them the choice of Jesus or Barabbas, well, the people that had been paid, basically, to say that they wanted Barabbas rather than Jesus, Barabbas became the scapegoat, fulfilling the ritual of releasing the scapegoat into the wilderness. Okay? So that's all I wanted to say about that. So Pilate, when he saw that he wasn't going to get anywhere with these people, that they wanted him crucified, he took water and washed his hands, and he said, I am innocent of the blood of this just person, see to it. And then answered all the people and said, his blood be on us and on our children. Okay, and like I say, these were people that had been were already against Jesus, that had been paid to come and say what they did, and then the chief priests and everything like that, the other Pharisees that were there, let their blood be upon us. Let his blood be upon us. Okay, so, and what happened to them? Well, the year 70 AD, and the Romans came and destroyed Jerusalem, and all the blood that was shed was on their kids. And so then when Jesus is turned over to the soldiers of the governor, they put a scarlet robe on him, and this is where they put on the crown of thorns, and then they mocked him, saying that he was king of the Jews, and then they compelled him to bear his cross, and then they came to the place of the skull, which is Golgotha. Now, in modern depictions, they show three crosses up on top of a hill. It didn't happen that way. And they show a T cross, okay? It looks like a T, right? Didn't happen that way. Okay, the cross that Jesus carried was like two big branches, which they put into an X, which they bound together in the middle and made an X out of it, and then they strapped a person to the top and bottom. Okay, outstretched feet. They would nail not actually through the middle of the foot, but they would nail the ankle through the ankle bone on each side of the X at the bottom, and then through the hands on the top. Okay, and and so Jesus has been flogged. He's been beaten, and and it says in Isaiah that like a lamb that's led to the slaughter is dumb. The Messiah would not say a word, right? Well, Jesus didn't feel pain. He had power over his pain. He didn't feel pain. So everybody thinks, oh, he was crying out in pain when he's being whipped. No, he wasn't. He was just silent there, which really bothered him because he didn't cry out. It was just, it was like wet noodles on his back. I mean, it's tearing up his back, but it's like being slapped around with wet noodles. He's not feeling the pain. When they took him and actually laid him on the cross to nail him to the cross, he's not feeling the nail go through his hands and his feet. Because he's got power over the pain. He's not feeling the pain. This is not, the beating and the nailing to the cross was not suffering for Jesus. Like I said, the only suffering that Jesus really went through was the suffering that comes from being separated from his Father in heaven. All right? And you got to understand that. In fact, even as he was being beaten and everything, his body was healing. It was like, hurry up and die, otherwise, he'll heal himself before this ordeal is over. But you see, he's also been awake all night, so his body is getting tired. He's had to carry this cross, which was heavy, and his body and his mind and he's been separated from the power of his Heavenly Father. He's getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. Okay. But one time I was, I had a vision, and I saw that the soldier that was nailing Jesus' hands to the cross, he put it in the palms of his hands, and Jesus said, "You're new to this, aren't you?" And the soldier was surprised, and he said, well, "Yeah, this is my first crucifixion." And he said, "Well, you're going to have to put the nails in the wrists, or when you put me up, I'll just fall off the cross." And so the soldier, was really surprised because Jesus is telling him how to do the job. And so, we got the nail in the wrist besides the nail in the hands, okay? But I just thought I'd throw that in. It was interesting to me when the Lord showed it to me. But anyway, so then they put him up on the cross. Oh, and the place of the crosses was not on top of the hill. The place of the cross was on the roadway, at the foot of the hill, so that passers-by could see these guys suffering and crying out. So like when it talks about the Pharisees passing by and saying, just get down off the cross and save yourself. Show us the miracle of saving yourself, and then we'll believe that you're the Christ. I mean, this was almost like a face-to-face confrontation, and but evidently, they put these crosses up, not actually so much on the road, but high enough up so that you couldn't really actually touch it, right? Which was why the soldier, used the spear to pierce him, and then they had to put the vinegar on the staff to get it up to his mouth. Okay. And so finally Jesus cries out, and he says to his Father in heaven, "Why have you abandoned me?" And then right after that, Jesus gives up the ghost. And then the next thing that talks about that is when he yielded up the ghost, that the veil of the temple was rent or torn into from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent. Okay, and I want to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Okay, but we're going to stop. Well, I'll let it run out.